Hi, I'm Leon Taryan with the Power of the Patient Project. Today, my guest is Rebecca Morrison, author of The Happiness Recipe, a powerful guide to living what matters. Ms. Morrison uses her writing to connect to the reader by aiding them in finding the pathway to a more joyful life. As a former lawyer and finance professional, her previous experiences helped shape her into a happiness coach. Through her book, she tries to strike positivity in the reader through her written words. Today, Ms. Morrison is here with us to share some of her important lessons and information about becoming happier. Welcome, Ms. Morrison.
Hi, Leon. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Of course, we're glad to have you with us. The first question I have for you is, what encouraged you to make a career switch from lawyer and finance professional to a happiness coach?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's one I get asked a lot. When I tell people I'm a lawyer turned happiness coach, they're kind of like, how did that happen? And so the story goes a little something like this. It didn't happen overnight. It's been a long journey in my own career of trying to balance both what I needed to do to support my family with what I wanted to do to be happy. And so that story really started when I was shortly out of law school. I was about 4.5 years into being a litigator at a big law firm. And I found myself one evening sitting on the floor of the bathroom trying to bathe a toddler while simultaneously trying to prepare experts for trial. So I had, papers everywhere, notebook on the toilet, closed toilet seat cover, kid in the bathtub, and I am trying to do it all. And my first thought when that happened was, wow, like this is amazing. I'm amazing. I'm really killing it. I'm actually doing it all. And then very quickly, the next thought was, but this is unsustainable and I'm not actually happy. And so that kicked off an inquiry for me after years of doing what I thought I was supposed to do, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and then happiness would appear someday, and it just hadn't. And so I really started at that point to engage in thinking about how can I architect a life where I define what success is for me and where I can be happy and have a career that sort of marries it all together. And so I did a variety of things in the world of law and finance as my needs changed, as my life seasons evolved, culminating in a couple of years ago, getting effectively laid off. And I did what most people do when they find themselves at the end of a job. They start looking for a new job. And I started to apply for all the jobs that I thought I could do. And then I realized I was falling back into an old pattern of thinking that I needed to just have the next thing versus really stopping and considering what the next thing should be for my happiness. And so hired a coach at that point, and then landed on that the commonality throughout my career had really been working with people and helping them be more successful. And I wanted to figure out how to make that a job. And so that's how I landed on coaching. And as I started my coaching journey, I realized that what I really love doing is helping people figure out what makes them tick so that they can build a happy life.
Absolutely. And tell me why you started writing this book. Was there any instance in your life that made you want to bring positivity to others?
So I can't say there was one instance. It really is a life journey of realizing that we only get one chance to walk in this world, in this lifetime, and that I wanted to use it to positively influence the world. And I did not intend to write a book. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but in March 2020, when COVID hit, I had intentions of going out and sort of refining my coaching approach and my coaching framework by doing a lot of informal networking, lunch and learn type activities. And then, of course, all of that came to a screeching halt. And organizations, not only were not people not meeting in person, but organizations weren't in a position to invest time, let alone money, in training and development in the same way, because they were working on moving workforces in many cases to 100% remote. And so I sort of was like, what do I do? How do I capture what I'm thinking? How do I really dig in? And I joined kind of on a whim. I joined a writer's retreat thinking that I would use that structure to really force myself to sit down and collect my thoughts. Not intending to write a book. And as I started to sort of collect what I wanted to say, I was like, oh, this actually could be a book. And it could be a book that very much fits into what I believe my purpose in this season of life is, which is to spread joy.
That's amazing. And based on your experiences and your writing, what do you think stands most in the way of people trying to attain the goal of happiness, since you've coached people and you've had that experience?
Absolutely. So I think I don't have just one thing as an answer. So my notion or my approach is that the formula for maximum happiness is really about doing more of what matters to you and less of the rest. And I see sort of what I identify as three different gaps that get in the way. And they all kind of have, I see people with all of them sometimes, and I see people with just one of them sometimes. It depends, but they all can impact our path to happiness. And the first gap that I talk about and that I see is what I call the authenticity gap. So it's when we don't really know what actually matters to us. We don't really know what makes us tick. We've become disconnected from ourselves because we haven't been encouraged or taught by the world to be connected to ourselves, right? The world sends us lots of messages about what success should look like. And if we fail to take the additional step of confirming that that's what I want my success to look like, we can get that disconnect. So that's number one. Number two, I call it the emotional energy gap. And that's really the mindset stuff that everyone talks about. But it's, do you have the supportive beliefs and feelings, the tools in your toolbox to help you actually do more of what matters and less of the rest? So how do you let go of guilt? How do you say no? How do you set boundaries? How do you start a new habit? How do you believe that you're worthy of happiness? How do you accept the reality that is possible to be both struggling and happy? Because, oh, by the way, it's not mutually exclusive, right? You can be living a really tough patch in your life and still find moments of happiness. And then the last gap is actually, I felt discipliners. Did I lose you for a second there?
Yeah, just keep going. We're
okay,
good.
That's fine. So are you really living your priorities? Are you really able to do more of what matters and then cut out some of the noise? And so I think in order to have happiness, you need to kind of look at where is the barrier for you. And again, it could be all three. It could be just one. For some people, when they finally connect with what's meaningful to them, they're off to the races. And for some people, they very much know what they need to do or what they want to do, but they don't know how to make it happen. And that either is because there's a mindset gap or an actual execution gap. And so I work with people to close all of those gaps.
Absolutely. And additionally, on what you said, are there any specific steps or methods that you might use to help someone on the pathway to finding some sort of joy or happiness?
So my favorite super quick exercise that aren't working. They're living in a world that they're unhappy and they want to figure out how to get happier, right? And one quick hack that I like to offer is to ask them what makes them happy. And so I just, think about it for a minute, not you can think about it too, but as you're listening to this, right, ask yourself, what makes me happy? And then write down the first 3 to 5 things that come to mind. And don't edit them. Don't judge them. Don't be like, well, that's a silly thing. Just write it down. Humor me and write it down. And then take one of those things and ask yourself, what about that thing makes me happy? And then write down that answer. And then ask yourself about that answer, what about that thing makes me happy? And repeat that process 3 to 5 times. And then look at the list that you've come up with. And what you'll find on that list in most cases is that you have at least one of your essential sources of joy. And you'll know it's an essential source of joy when you realize that it's something that you could deploy in your life at any moment. So I'll give you an example. A lot of times people say, what makes you happy? People will say, when I'm on vacation. People like to go on vacation. Why? Why do people like to go on vacation? Well, the answer can depend on the person. One person might say, I like to go on vacation because it gives me a break from work. Another person might say, I like to go on vacation because I like to see beautiful places. So let's take the beautiful places person. Okay, well, what is it about beautiful places that makes you happy? Well, I really like to connect with nature, and I really like to slow down and take the time to observe what's happening around me. And you see, I could keep going, but already we've got an essential source of joy. So when you're having a difficult day, go find beautiful nature, if that's you. And then just a little bit of the most difficult. That's one of my quick hacks I like to share with people. I don't know if you need me to say part of that again, which I'm happy to do.
If you could say part of that again, we'll edit it.
I know what. So where do you need me to start?
You were talking about the nature
Okay.
part.
So let's say you're that person who likes vacation because you like to connect with beautiful things in nature. Already you've identified an essential source of joy, right? So when you're having a really difficult day, you can go and find something beautiful in nature to spend some time with. And it's a way that you can inject a little bit of happiness into every single day. And so you can see where if you repeated that exercise with a longer list of things that make me happy, you'd really end up with a menu of choices that you have that even when things are hard, you can inject little nuggets or little drops of happiness.
Absolutely. And in your opinion, how do you think this pandemic that we've been living in has affected the everyday morale of individuals?
So look, this has been, I mean, how many times have we heard the word unprecedented? Right? It's nothing that I think most of us have ever lived through before. But what I'm finding is it's a big opportunity that people are taking to reprioritize, to really dive in and dig in to what matters to them. And you know, they're talking in a job market sense about the global resignation, meaning that they're expecting that a lot of people will not want to return to work, especially work as before. And what I see in that is people really saying, no, I've decided that other things are more important to me, be that being more flexible for my family or being more present for my family or being able to control my health better. There's a lot of reasons why someone might make a different job choice. And I think we're going to see people becoming more demanding around their own needs, which I view as a net positive, although it's going to be an odd period of transition. I think I believe that will serve to increase happiness on an individual and also community level in the long term.
And the last question I have for you is, what are some of the routines in your life that have helped you find some personal happiness?
So there's a couple of things I'll highlight here. One, I cannot overstate the benefits that I have seen from meditation. I use meditation as an opportunity to stay quiet. Where'd you lose me?
If we could start a meditation.
No, it's totally fine. I that's why I stopped, because I noticed you froze. It's no big deal.
It'll get edited out.
I'm not even this much worried about it. So one of the things is that I cannot overstate the benefit of meditation. And when I say meditation, I'm using that word very loosely. What I mean is just finding time every day to sit quietly with yourself, or if you believe in a power outside of yourself, with that power, with the divine, with source, with the universe, however you conceptualize it. There's something about that quiet connection time that has been really meaningful to me. So that's number one. And then on the other end of the spectrum, something that I've found really important is celebration. And so I'm sure people have heard of having a gratitude practice, you know, giving thanks daily for what we do have. And I'm huge. I think that's a big deal too. But I like to take it a step further and really take opportunities to give our nervous system a little bit of a reward in the form of celebration when we do things. So I like to think every day about what did I accomplish today? And it can be as small as I honored my commitment to myself and I meditated, or as big as I met a big milestone or a deadline. The point is to find daily reasons to celebrate and then to actually take the added step of doing something celebratory. And again, the celebratory thing doesn't have to be like next level, birthday level celebration. It can be a little something. Just, you know, maybe you pop on a really fun song and dance around, or maybe you just say out loud to a friend or a partner that, hey, look, I did this thing today. Like, can I have a hug, you know, to celebrate? Whatever it is, finding some way to acknowledge those little milestones as we meet them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't even have to be anything that takes too much time out of your day. It's just something that we use that could give us like a clear sense of mind. And meditation has definitely helped a lot of people. I know that I've used it in the past, and you just feel like refreshed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And thank you for your responses. We at the Power of the Patient wish you the best of luck and hope to reach out to you to contact you to give an update on what's happening with you and your career and your book, and we wish you the best of luck in that.
Awesome. Thanks, Leon. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.